Come on, that's cringe. We can all agree that that's cringe. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Read, Share, Repeat, where we discuss books from the perspective of an aspiring fantasy author. Me, Carrie Share. Well, today I am going back to a video concept I started late last year, and that is Adventures with Annotating. My previous Adventures with Annotating videos are on my other channel, but I will have them linked in the description below. But basically the concept is I am trying to teach myself how to annotate. And the reason for that is that I often feel like I am just running through books without actually allowing myself the chance to sink in and absorb what I'm reading. I have noticed that oftentimes I'm not very imaginative when I read. I am just digesting the story as words on a page, and I'm not letting myself fully sink into it. And so the hope is that by slowing down and forcing myself to annotate, it will help me enjoy the books I'm consuming more. And the Adventures with Annotating ballooned into a project of attempting to annotate every single physical book that I own, which means a lot of rereading, which I have been doing since I last filmed one of these videos. But for this video, I decided to go with a completely new book. I gave it some thought, and I decided that the next book I'll be annotating is The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. This is a enemies to lovers romantasy about two people on opposite sides of the war with opposite kinds of magic, light and dark. But the light magic isn't supposed to exist anymore. And therein lies the beautiful tension at the heart of this enemies to lovers romance. At least I hope. That's what I hear. I did try reading this book sometime last year. I got it from the library, and then my loan ran out before I got through it. I'm not typically a huge enemies to lovers fan, and my experience with romantasy is pretty spotted. But when I saw this extremely gorgeous edition, I thought that even if I don't end up liking it, it'll look really pretty on my shelves. But I do want to read it, and I do want to like it. I have chosen my color palette for the annotation. And yeah, I am really looking forward to hopefully finding a romantasy that speaks to me, because it's been rough going thus far. So my goal is to get started on this tonight, and then I will check in periodically. I like to check in at the 10, 25, and 50% marks, and then of course give my final thoughts when I am done. I didn't notice it's like a face here. Oh my gosh, I love it. Look, like even if this book ends up not being to my taste, I don't know that I can bear getting rid of it. I just love how it looks so much. So yeah, I'm gonna settle down, read the first 10%, and then I will check in with you, maybe not tonight, but hopefully tomorrow. Hello everyone, just checking in for a quick reading update. Today is Monday, and I have just hit the 10% mark of The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon, and I have some immediate thoughts. The first being is that this is a little overwritten. Like, let's all just agree that this is just a little bit overwritten. I think the way I phrased it in my reading journal is that the colorful metaphors and flowery language are pretty, but ultimately useless. And I'm not really feeling impressed by it. It's actually just making it a little bit harder to digest. That being said, I do like that the story immediately starts out with a confrontation between the principal female character and the person I assume is her love interest, given the synopsis and the romantasy tag. I do like that. I like that it's immediately like front and center. It is not beating around the bush what the story is about. It is the war that they are fighting on opposite sides, and it is about these two main characters. I don't need anything else. I think a common failing of romantasy especially is that it tries to pretend to be something that it's not. By putting the enemies, who will, I assume, eventually become lovers based on the tropes, or at least, have some sort of romantic feelings for each other, by putting them front and center, literally in the prologue, and then in that second chapter, I think, the rest of that confrontation, it's putting it right in your face up front. It's telling you what the story is about. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that it's not trying to confuse us with any other sort of unnecessary information or plots. Now I say that. I don't know how I'm feeling about the secret undercover mission to go find this secret magical source plot that the main character is about to embark on. That feels like everything I just said that it wasn't doing. So I'm not really in love with that. We'll see how it plays out. I'm keeping an open mind for now. But like I said, I feel like that is the opposite of what I wanted, especially after that opening confrontation. The world building, I think I could like, but it is extremely clunky and almost childish in the names of the different like planes of magic and the light versus dark. I don't really need the cheeky, like, it just feels very, almost unimaginative. And I say that as someone who, like, that's how I start my world building, is I find a theme and I plug in inputs based on that theme. The difference is that when I'm revising, I go in and change it so that it doesn't feel so middle grade. I don't think adult readers need the link between all the references between the light and the dark, and it's like many different facets. That just feels a little bit on the nose. Adult readers can, make connections beyond just the names of things. Does that make sense? It was a little bit of a disappointing start. I am committed to getting through this book. I'm definitely curious about it, and it's just so pretty. Like, that's such a superficial reason to read a book, but it is. So I've got two color tabs here, yellow and green. Green is unfortunately cringe, and yellow were lines or moments that I did like. So I'm trying something a little bit new with my annotations. I'm not tabbing specific characters or specific plot lines. It's going to be more about feelings that I'm having. So yes, moments where I cringe at a really bad line, or like, by the world father's untrimmed beard, it was colder than the night emperor's heart out here. Come on, that's cringe. We can all agree that that's cringe. Or on the other hand, lines that I like, not for the first time, Taliesin felt like an intruder witnessing a conversation that she couldn't hear. Vela and Darius had their own silent language. They had known each other for blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I like that she's talking about, like, it's not the first time that an author uses that metaphor of watching people communicate silently. I just like the way that was phrased. So, like I said, there's good stuff in here. There's some cringy stuff in here, but I am looking forward to kind of getting further and seeing how it plays out. I'm hoping that this undercover mission plot actually doesn't take up too much time, and we're getting more back into the confrontation between the two principal characters. So, like I said, it's only the first 4 chapters, just 50 pages. So, that's not really a lot to go on. So we'll just keep plugging away. Hey y'all, just checking in for a quick reading update. I have just hit the 25% mark of the Hurricane Wars by Tia Guanzon, and I have a lot of thoughts. The first one being, I have heard that Tia Guanzon is another Raylo fanfiction author that has since gotten traditionally published. I don't know for certain if this book started as Raylo fanfiction, but I would hazard a guess that it is, because it feels very thinly veiled. Let's just put it that way. The main male character's description: tall, big, pale, long dark hair, angular face, beauty marks, a very deep voice, feels like an Adam Driver type of person, to say nothing for the pretty obvious light and dark aspects of their magic. I'm gonna be upfront and say, first of all, I don't care for Raylo. I'm not a Raylo shipper. I feel very icky about that ship, and I feel very icky about this, what I imagine would be the romance. I hate this man. I hate him. And this just goes back to why I don't read enemies to lovers, because I hate enemies to lovers. Because most of the time it is the man being just patently awful to the female character, and then not doing much of anything really to earn romantic feelings and getting them anyway because it's hot. Now, circumstances, they're on opposite sides of the war. They're very literally enemies, not just figuratively. So obviously he's not going to treat her very well, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. I don't. I am the rare denizen of the internet who really dislikes enemies to lovers. And this is true, enemies to lovers. They are very much enemies. Now, none of that is the book's fault. I mean, it is, but it's not the book's fault that I'm reading it. This book is very much aware of what it is, and I didn't have to read it knowing that I probably wouldn't like it, and yet here I am. I was taken in by this extremely beautiful edition, even though I suspected I would not like it. So Thea Guanzon got my money, but she's not going to get a favorable opinion, unfortunately. And again, that's not her fault. She wrote the book that she wanted, and the book, I imagine, has a great deal of fans, not just because of the tropes, but because of what it accomplishes. I'm just not going to be one of them. It just is what it is. This book is not going to ever be for me, and I regret that I spent money on it. That being said, I'm going to finish it because I am getting some interesting thoughts and experiences out of annotating it. As you can see, we've got some new colors joining the field. It's not just lines I like and cringe anymore. So we have orange, and orange, I would say, is a theory. I'm not really sure why. There's a moment at the beginning of chapter 5 when it was talking about why the main male character's country needs to be in this war against the other one. And it gave me some thinky thoughts. And so I just tabbed it. I don't really know why, other than maybe just the theory. We'll see if I have any other cause to tab orange again, and then maybe that will kind of coalesce specifically what the tabs are for. And then we have purple. And purple are moments that surprised me. There are two specifically. A lot of times, especially in these kinds of books, they're very trope driven, which is not a bad thing. That's not a criticism. It just is what it is. And so when I'm reading them, I can generally see the shape of almost every scene and interaction and the overall plot. But there have been moments in this book in particular that surprised me. And that goes back to kind of what I said last time, in that I like how it started with a confrontation between the two eventual love interests. I did like that, and I did like that plot that made them diverge. It did bring them back together again really quickly. Even though I'm not a big fan of the inputs in this book, that doesn't make it bad. In fact, there are moments that I think are innovative and interesting. So that's what purple is. Like I said, there were a couple. And then blue was an anachronism. The narration uses the phrase par for the course. That's a golf term specifically. Normally, anachronisms don't bother me. I just, who cares? Who cares? But now that I'm annotating and reading more closely, I notice them more. I don't know that I would say my opinion is shifting. I'm still largely of the opinion, who cares? But it did strike me as something out of place. And so I tabbed it, not because I'm criticizing it, but because it was interesting to me that it did pull me out of the story a little bit. And it's instructive to me as a fellow writer, as something maybe I should be aware of in my own writing when I'm writing a secondary world, to just be aware of the origin of some phrases, because even though it may not bother me specifically, and it may not bother a lot of readers, it'll bother some people. And par for the course, like in the way that it was used, didn't need to be used. She could have just said standard procedure. Whatever this was done is not par for the course, it's standard procedure. And that would have been just fine and not pulled me out. And so, like I said, it was interesting. It gave me, an interesting thought that when I'm doing my own writing, to just be aware of that. If I can use a neutral phrase, maybe I should. So that is all I have so far. I'm bummed that I'm not liking it. I mean, and there is something to say about the way that it's making me feel. Yes, I feel icky about the romance, or the eventual romance, and I really hate the man. And who knows, maybe Thea Guanzon will continue to surprise me, and the shift from enemies to lovers will feel earned. We'll see, because I am going to continue reading. But there is something else to say, that she is accomplishing a feeling that is bad. No. Let me rephrase that. She is evoking a feeling in me that, I feel bad for the characters. I feel bad that the enemy is winning so early in this book. Normally that is reserved for the final 25%, not the first 25%. And so she is accomplishing getting an emotion out of me. It's just unfortunate that I don't like to be depressed in my spare time, and so I just have the feel bads about what I've read so far. There's a lot left to go. We'll see how it turns. And again, I am committed to finishing it. So like I said, while this book is eliciting a lot of like negative emotions or feelings, that in and of itself doesn't make it a bad thing. And so I just wanted to put that out there in the reviewing space specifically, that just because you have feel bads about a book doesn't make that opinion worthless or invalid. Anyway, it's been a very interesting experience. I am also having just a tough time getting through it. It does not read very quickly. Not in a way that makes it feel like a slog. I don't know. I'm just like, I'm just having a hard time staying focused on the page, I guess. But I don't know. It's weird. I'm just having a hard time getting through it. But yep. So those are my 25% thoughts. I'm really hoping that there are more moments of surprise where the plot takes a turn or takes turns or subverts tropes in ways I don't expect, because that's really the only hope I have for having any sort of positive feeling about this book. That is that. Next time I speak to you, I will have hit the 50% mark. Hello, everyone. I come to you with some sad news. It is now Saturday evening, and I have just decided that I am DNFing the Hurricane Wars. Unfortunately, I hate this book. I knew really early on that I wasn't jiving with it, and that the tropes that I knew were inside were not my favorite. And yet I decided to, first of all, my first mistake was buying it. But like, in my defense, okay, I shouldn't have. I should have just followed my instinct and said, I'm probably not going to like this book, because I am not. This is just not for me in any way. I do not like enemies to lovers at all. I do not especially like the way that this is turning out. I really hate this man. I hate him. I'm only 40% of the way in, 38%, but I hate him. I don't think he can turn it around in 250 pages. I don't see his behavior and therefore my opinion changing that quickly to bring me on board with this. I'm not judging anyone who likes it. This is no hate to this book in particular or Tia Guanzon or her fans. This is just not for me. And I just arrived at a plot point that I was just really upset by, and I knew I could not finish it. Spoilers for about the 40% mark of this book. I'll put a watermark right here. I'm just going to briefly touch on it. You can come back when this is gone. The main character is pretty much given over in marriage to the main male character, who is like the emperor of this conquering empire. And she's like, fuck no, he's murdered everybody I love and care about. He's completely wiped out my people. He tried to murder me, all this stuff. I'm not going to do it. And it's pretty much like, well, you have to, or everyone else will die. So just deal with it, suck it up. You made a promise that you were going to behave and that you were going to do what you're told. So now you have to. And I'm sorry, I can't get on board with that. I don't care what happens in the last half of this book. I don't think I can stomach any more of this. This almost borders on like trauma porn, is how bad it is to me. Like, everything, like, this man has done so much terrible things. He is at the head of a conquering army. He fervently believes in the mission, but he's interested in her, and we're supposed to believe that somehow that makes it better. I mean, obviously not at this point of the book, but like I said, I just don't see how my opinion can be changed in the last 250 pages. So I am calling it quits, I regret to say. And that's pretty much it. Like, again, this isn't really the book's fault or Tia Guanzon's fault. It is my fault entirely for picking up a book I knew I probably wouldn't enjoy. But I had hopes. I had hopes that it would turn out differently, and it just didn't. So this is my first complete fail in my annotation series. I have not ever not finished a book that I've been, annotating. My annotations may have fallen off towards the end as I was enjoying a book less and less, looking directly at you, A Fate Inked in Blood, but I've never not finished one. So this is a kind of a new experience. I will be listing this book probably on Pango with some of my other prettier editions that I'm getting rid of. Obviously, I'll take out my my tabs, but yeah, this sucks. I not the book, the experience, and DNFing and all that, because I just DNF'd another book, and I really was not wanting to DNF two books back to back, but I kind of knew in my heart of hearts a couple days ago that I wasn't gonna like this, and I tried to push through, and yeah, it sucks. I'm sorry to have to do it, but it is what it is. I will not make the mistake of picking up a pretty book that I know I won't like again. Okay, that's probably a lie. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe or consider leaving a comment down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave a broken heart emoji because I am truly disappointed that this was the outcome. In my next video, I will have my March TBR for you, and hopefully it is filled with books that I will actually like this time. I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then. Bye.